An entire colony disappears. No bodies, no battle, and only a single word left behind. Croatoan, and more than 400 years later, people are still asking the same question. What happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? My friends, you're going to like this one. In 1587, more than 100 English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. The colony was intended to become England's first permanent settlement in the New World. Men, women, and children crossed the Atlantic, hoping to build a future in unfamiliar territory, far from home. But within just a few years, every one of them vanished. And this is where the mystery begins. The governor of the colony, John White, returned to England shortly after the settlement was established in order to gather supplies and reinforcements. But due to war between England and Spain, his return voyage was delayed far longer than expected. By the time White finally returned to Roanoke in 1590, nearly 3 years had passed. What he found has puzzled historians ever since. The settlement was abandoned, homes had been dismantled, buildings were gone. There were no signs of violence, no remains, and no clear indication of what had happened to the colonists. The only clue left behind was a single word carved into a wooden post: Croatoan. And this is where incident turns to mystery, because Croatoan was not a random word. It referred to both a nearby island, now known as Hatteras Island, and the indigenous Croatoan people who lived there. Before leaving England, White and the colonists had reportedly agreed that if the settlement was forced to relocate, the destination would be carved into wood as a message. That detail changes everything, because it suggests the colonists may not have vanished suddenly at all. They may have left intentionally. But if that's true, why were they never found? For centuries, theories surrounding Roanoke have ranged from starvation and disease to massacre, storms, and warfare. Some historians believe the colonists simply could not survive the harsh conditions of the New World. Others argue they may have been killed during conflict with local tribes. And over time, the disappearance of Roanoke became one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in American history. But in recent years, new discoveries have begun to reshape the story entirely. And although researchers are trying to shed new light on an old mystery, this is where things start to get a little strange. Archaeologists working on Hatteras Island have uncovered evidence suggesting English colonists may have lived among the Croatoan people for years after the colony supposedly disappeared. One of the most important discoveries involved large amounts of hammer scale, a byproduct of blacksmithing and metalworking. That matters because indigenous communities in the region did not traditionally produce metal in this way. According to researchers, the discovery suggests English settlers may have established a functioning metalworking operation while living alongside the Croatoan tribe, and this wasn't a single, isolated artefact. Archaeologists reportedly uncovered what appeared to be an entire workshop area, along with additional English-style items buried among native settlements. But this is where the mystery begins to shift, because if the colonists assimilated into Croatoan society, then perhaps the lost colony was never truly lost at all. Some historians now argue that the famous mystery may have been exaggerated over time. Scott Dawson, a researcher and president of the Croatoan Archaeological Society, believes the colonists likely relocated to Hatteras Island and integrated with local indigenous communities. According to Dawson, the word Croatoan was never cryptic in the first place. It was simply a destination. And historically, that theory makes sense. The colony had already suffered from supply shortages, isolation, and growing tension. Relocating to a more stable area with the support of local tribes may have been the colonists' best chance for survival. Some historical accounts even suggest later European explorers encountered indigenous groups with unusual physical features, including grey eyes and English surnames. Still, the mystery remains unresolved, because while the evidence for assimilation has grown stronger, there is still no definitive proof explaining exactly what happened to every colonist. No complete records exist. No official account was ever documented. And after more than 4 centuries, many questions remain unanswered. Because if Croatoan was a destination, why was there no contact with colonists after the abandoned Roanoke was discovered? And this is where another discovery enters the story. In 2024, archaeologists working in Chile announced they had pinpointed the exact location of another vanished colonial settlement, sometimes referred to as the Spanish Roanoke. The colony, known originally as Rey Don Felipe and later nicknamed Port Famine, was established in 1584 near the Strait of Magellan. Just like Roanoke, it failed catastrophically. Within only a few years, the colony had collapsed, its settlers dead, and the site abandoned. Historians long struggled to determine the precise location of the settlement, but using modern technology, archaeologists finally identified the site after discovering a ceremonial Spanish coin buried exactly where historical records suggested the colony had been founded. And this is where the parallel becomes fascinating. Researchers described Port Famine and Roanoke as examples of the fragility of early colonial ventures. Isolated settlements struggling against distance, starvation, conflict, harsh environments, and uncertain support from Europe. In both cases, survival depended not only on supplies, but on relationships with local indigenous populations. That comparison has led some historians to rethink Roanoke entirely. Perhaps the colony didn't disappear in some sudden catastrophe. Perhaps the settlers adapted, merged with local communities, and slowly disappeared into history through assimilation rather than death. But not everyone agrees. Some researchers still argue that the archaeological evidence remains incomplete. Others believe at least part of the colony may have relocated inland rather than entirely to Croatoan territory. There are also theories involving disease, internal conflict, or attacks that may have reduced the colony before survivors scattered elsewhere. But this is where the mystery holds, because despite modern archaeology, advanced technology, and centuries of investigation, no single explanation has fully solved the disappearance of Roanoke. What makes the story so enduring is not simply that the colonists vanished, it's that they may have left behind a clue we misunderstood for hundreds of years. And perhaps that's why the mystery continues to fascinate people today. Because Roanoke sits in a strange space between legend and history. There was no supernatural disappearance, no sudden vanishing into thin air. Instead, the mystery may be something quieter and more human. A struggling colony, isolation, fear, survival, and over time, a gradual disappearance into another culture and another identity. But until definitive evidence is uncovered, the lost colony of Roanoke remains exactly that, lost. And if history has taught us anything, it's that some of the greatest mysteries are not hidden in myths or legends. Sometimes they're buried just beneath the ground, waiting to be found.